All right. Welcome back to All Cars Reacts 2, my continuing mini-series on the compact sport utilities of the mid to late 2000s, and one more video where I am doing my darndest to avoid talking about the RAV4. And to do it, we're going to talk about the Mazda CX-7. I'll be honest with you, I forgot this one was out there, so it's going to be super interesting to see what they say, because I've kind of got thoughts on this. So as always, make yourself comfortable, because you and I are going to chat like two old friends. We're going to grab a beverage of choice. This is some leftover fully caffeinated caffeine this morning, and let's see what Motorweek said about it when it's brand new.
Your host for Motorweek, John Davis.
Hello and welcome again to Motorweek. We're glad to have you with us. Sport utility vehicles used to be just boxes on wheels, more suited to climbing over tree stumps than making short work of switchback roads. But those days are fading fast, and emphasizing sport over utility is definitely a trend. Now, few brands have a closer link to great on-road performance than Mazda, and they claim that this new CX-7 sport utility also comes with plenty of zoom. But if sport goes up, does utility come down? The 2007 Mazda CX-7 certainly doesn't look like your typical compact sport utility vehicle. The CX-7's fine curves are not so subtle reminders of Mazda's soul of a sports car trademark, the core of the brand's marketing theme. So the more than fleeting resemblance to the RX-8 is no accident. A gaping grille, rakish hood, and super-fast windshield up front, and small hatch-top spoiler and oversized dual exhaust at the rear are only the highlights of this crossover's unusually sporty car looks. Indeed, sitting on sharp 18-inch alloys, about the only thing truck-like about this crossover is its long 108.3-inch wheelbase. The artfully designed body is atop a unique chassis with suspension components derived from the agile Mazda 3 and Mazda 5. For heavier duty, the all-independent setup has been beefed up and recalibrated. But it's under the hood where we find the zoom.
No, let's not talk about the engine quite yet. Let's go back and try to talk about the styling a little bit. I think they might be overstating it slightly to say it inspired by the RX. Yeah, there's certainly a design language aspect to it. I'm not sure what to say. I feel anything I say is going to make somebody mad. I think this is a good-looking vehicle. Period, full stop. In the same way that I think the Murano is a good-looking vehicle, or it was, okay? So I'm not going to say it's ugly. I mean, if you think about my opinion of the Rogue, right, or the Compass, this is on a different level. This is so much prettier. It's sculpted. However, you will probably have noticed by now that my preference is, if you're going to have a sport utility, I want it to be more boxy. Think about the Ford Escape, right? Think about the Equinox, which I don't hate, and it's looking better the more of these I do. This looks good, but it stops short of gorgeous for me. And in a world of Foresters, this is beautiful. I guess what I'm dancing around here is when I see Mazda Sport Utilities, because they put their emphasis on the zoom, I always expect these to be incredibly compromised for their role as a sport utility. But it's kind of hard to look at this and not argue this is the best looking of the compact sport utilities, and hell, I'm not sure that isn't still the case today.
Recalibrated. But it's under the hood where we find the zoom that makes the CX-7 a true performance SUV. This direct-injected 2.3-liter turbocharged and intercooled four-cylinder comes almost directly from the highly entertaining Mazda Speed 6. It freely relinquishes 244 horsepower, that's over 100 horses per liter, and 258 pound-feet of torque. The Sport AT automatic transmission with its well-spaced gearing provides a manual shift mode, an icing on the cake feature intended to sweeten the CX-7 driving experience. But the price for such...
Come on, Motorweek. Good power. I don't have any problem with Mazda engines. And I have that power's really good. Well, it's a turbo 4 that, you know, the CR-V made 166, the Rogue made 170, and I think the Compass made 172, right? Those are naturally aspirated. But then the Equinox with its V6 made 185. The Outlander, I surprisingly did not note how much it made, but I think it made 220 or something like that. 225, something along those lines. So this is stout. But then for the transmission, I have no place for manually shifting it like that. I hate that this ever became a thing. But they've shown it on multiple vehicles. So noting it here as being, you know, Mazda leaning into zoom, I think that's disingenuous. I really do.
Such prowess is unspectacular fuel economy estimates of 19 city and 24 highway. We manage 20 miles per gallon in normal driving on premium gas.
That's not good. And there's the weakness of turbocharging. You get a lot of power, but it does tend to use more gas. Again, for comparison, because the more of these I do, the better that Equinox looks, except for the quality of the materials, I think. The Equinox with a V6, less power, 19 city, 25 highway with all-wheel drive. They didn't give us the mixed driving on that, but 20, that's poor. That's just poor.
Traction control is standard with front-wheel drive, while the optional automatic all-wheel drive system can transfer up to 50% of the torque to the rear when needed. No wonder it moves the CX-7 from 0 to 60 in a most untruck-like 7.7 seconds, and through the quarter mile in 15.8 seconds at 87 miles per hour. While handling is not quite sports car crisp, it is very responsive with a great connection to the driver. Turn-in is rapid with near effortless cornering. That is, until understeer rears its ugly head. It also comes on quickly, causing you to back off before you get this utility in over its head. Dynamic stability control is another CX-7 standard, providing an added sense of security as this crossover displays far better balance than rivals like the Toyota Highlander and Nissan Murano. As you might expect, braking is also aggressive with front and rear ventilated ABS disc brakes. Stops from 60 to 0 averaged a good 123 feet.
And that brings up a few different things I want to talk about real quick. First is styling. I hate the clear taillights. Really, really hate them. I think that looks ghetto fabulous to me. Number two, handling looks good. Stopping, nothing, overly exciting, but probably slightly better than average. I need to do the Murano. Maybe I'll do a mini series on the next size up. But I want to point out here, for those of you who are going to say something about the CX-5, I did this, the CX-7, as part of this miniseries because it showed up in a comparison of other compact sport utilities, where they were comparing the RAV4, the CR-V, the Rogue, the Compass, and this. They clumped them all together. I imagine there's more than a few of you who are like, John, this doesn't compete with the Equinox and the Rogue and everything else. And I don't know. I would classify it as a size up, certainly by their nomenclature. But also, I think that Mazda tends to make their cars a little on the small side. So I might be straddling the compact, quote, quote, their sport utility, but I'm asking for a little bit of forgiveness here while we continue to look at it.
Electronic brake force distribution and brake assist are also standard. Crossing into the nicely equipped 5-passenger cabin further reinforces the notion that the CX-7 is not just another cute ute. The twin cockpit layout with highly styled forms accented by titanium trim looks far more show car than people mover. The deep bezeled instruments use red lighting for instant attention. It is all very, well, sporty. Front seats fall short of true sport buckets, however, but they are comfortable. Fabrics are high grade with power adjust heat and leather available. The well-crafted cabin can also be fitted with options like a 6-disc CD changer, Bose surround sound system, satellite navigation, and backup camera. A flat folding 60-40 split rear seat back adds the necessary flexibility. Cargo room is ample at 29.9 cubic feet seats up and 58.6 cubic feet seats down. A nice touch is a reversible floor panel with carpet on one side and durable composite on the other. A state-of-the-art crash.
Yeah, okay, crash testing, that's great. And that right there, while they may have compared it to the Murano or the Highlander, that cargo space is fully right in the middle of the compact sport utility expectations. And I would say, generally speaking, of the ones we've looked at, that puts it in the middle, right? It's certainly not the biggest, but there's been others that have been quite a bit tighter. And it leads me to that Mazda's leaning into the sporty side of it, the stylish side of it, not the boxy utility side of it. So there's a small part of me that wants to be a little critical about how big that is. However, it still ends up being somewhere in the middle. You know, the Nissan Rogue with the seats down made 57.9 cubic feet. So it's thoroughly competitive with anything else out there. I feel like the interior is smaller than the exterior would lead you to believe. That's what I'm thinking. But it's still a very usable space, and I don't know that anybody's going to buy a car based purely on cargo volume, and unless you're buying a Ford Transit. The rest of the interior, it's gorgeous. Okay. There's not much more to say about it. I think I'm going to go back here. So, if I nitpick, and I really, really am getting kind of picky here, I don't love the gauges. First off, you know what I'm going to say: deep set, circle, sporty, and then they throw in some red lighting. I mean, this is Pontiac as far as I'm concerned. Mazda's trying to move upscale, and to me, they're doing Pontiac. But the rest of this dash, I think it's gorgeous, and something I've never noticed about myself that I noticed right here is I don't love circular vents. Right? It's okay when they're flush like this. That looks a little upscale. That's kind of what Mercedes does, right? It's when you do something funky with them, like the Camaro. 3. I love 3 vents. I never noticed until I saw this. It was like, oh my goodness, look at that. And I really, really want to give credit here. When we've looked at some of these other sport utilities, and they've got that center console, and I've talked about it probably twice now, where they put a slab of plastic there, they cut out a square, and they squeeze in a Kraco radio, right? Now look at this. That integrated display up top under a little lid. You've got the dark on top, the light underneath, light colored interior. The center console is ever so slightly trapezoidal, and the radio looks like it's integrated into it, not an afterthought. Big chunky knobs. Look at their steering wheel and think about some of the stuff we've seen that is just flat plastic, with a logo in the middle of it. This is like a piece of art compared to some of the other stuff we've seen. I love it. I absolutely love it so much, I don't even care about the gauges. This is a beautiful interior. There is no doubt in my mind that for everything else we've looked at, this is a different level. This is a different class of interior.
And durable composite on the other.
And I should have mentioned it. I totally forgot. That is really smart thinking, because with the caliber and I think the compass, they have this hard plastic back there, which I have criticized. If you put something loose back there, it rolls around and makes a lot of noise. And, some people have where, like a Honda, you can lift it up and make a shelf out of it. I like that. That's really smart. But that reversible, where you get carpet if you're going to put your luggage back there or some groceries, but you can flip it over if you're carrying something a little dirty, I like that a lot.
A state-of-the-art crash structure is augmented with front side impact airbags, as well as front and rear curtain airbags with rollover protection. Tire pressure monitoring is included too. Available in 3 trim levels, the front drive CX7 Sport starts at $24,310. Add $1,700 for a Sport with all-wheel drive. Step up to Touring trim for $26,060, while $28,560 takes home an all-wheel drive CX7 Grand Touring. You can pay thousands more for similar sized utilities and end up with fewer features and a lot less fun. The CX7 is not a sport utility for everyone. It's not the biggest, and it's clearly intended more for bad weather than bad roads. But when the roads are high and dry, no people mover provides more driving satisfaction than the 2007 Mazda CX7. There is a trade-off with more sport indeed leading to less utility, but it's a balance we think anyone with zoom zoom in their hearts will love.
While I am like most people, and I'm very tired of sport utilities dominating everything and looking an awful lot alike, and a tremendous number of them are white in the parking lot. They've mentioned several times about the utility part of sport utility, and their idea that the utility comes from older sport utilities like the Bronco 2 or the original, well, not the original, the Cherokee of the 80s, and the off-road ability of it. That's not why people bought them. Sure, a little bit of extra ground clearance and maybe all-wheel drive to help you with the snow or, really heavy rains or whatever. People buy these because they're easy to get into and out of. And Americans don't want a hatchback car, but they'll happily buy a hatchback and realize how wonderful it is to use. So saying that this, isn't a utility, sport utility, I think that's more than a little disingenuous. I wish they had provided a little bit more information here directly comparing, and they don't normally do it. I'm just kind of antsy for it on this one in particular, comparing exterior dimensions, interior volume to other competitors. Compare it to the Rogue and the Murano, and where does this thing sit? Because cargo says compact, size looks bigger, and price basically isn't competitive with anything else we've seen. This is, for base price, this is $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 more than much of the rest of the stuff we've seen. For no more cargo space, maybe it feels a little bit better going down the road, but a substantially better interior. My result right now is the same result I had back then. It would not be my choice. And this is not an indication of whether I think the car is good. I like Mazdas. I've had one. I've talked about it multiple times. It's one of my favorite cars. My opinion of Mazda is up here. On a really good day, I think they're as reliable as a Toyota, but much more expressive, much better looking, and much more fun to drive. But they never make my short list. There is something about Mazda and what they're doing with their marketing, what they do with their styling, that while I can stand back and be like, man, that's good looking, And I can get in the interior sometimes and be like, man, this is a good looking interior, but it never makes it into my top 5 if I'm shopping for a car. And I can't tell you why, because there's a part of me, the emotional part of me, well, that's probably it. The emotional part of me really likes Mazda. But the left brain that buys things for rational reasons doesn't do it for me. I don't know. That's what I've got today. Gorgeous car, by far the best looking, I think, of what we've seen. By far the best interior. The value proposition is just not there for me. That's my opinion on it. And yeah, I would buy a cheaper SUV than this, even if I know it's going to be more boring, because I just think it represents a better value. Mazda fans, let me know what you think below, but I do appreciate you being here for a few minutes with me today.